Ladies, young and old, daughters and sisters, I stand before you not as a scholar with a doctorate in philosophy, but as a woman shaped by a lifetime of trials, tears, and triumphs. I'm 72 years old, not ancient, but seasoned enough to have weathered storms you might not yet have faced, and blessed enough to have come through them not bitter, but better. If many women haven't yet realized this truth, then let it be said today, heart to heart. Wisdom isn't found in glossy magazines or fleeting social media posts. True wisdom is forged in life's fires, what scars teach, what grace redeems. Let me share something I learned the hard way. Love was never meant to be begged for. And if you find yourself begging for love, then what you're experiencing is not love, it's dependence. It's fear, it's loneliness masquerading as devotion. Real love never demands that you shrink yourself to fit someone else's mold. It doesn't make you question your own words or keep you waiting by the phone. It doesn't silence your voice or bruise your spirit. Yet, I see too many women, beautiful, strong, gifted women, diminishing themselves just to fit into someone else's broken picture. I used to believe that if I loved enough, forgave enough, sacrificed enough, eventually, he would love me the way I needed. I cooked meals, held back tears, ignored the silence, telling myself, this is what commitment looks like. But hear me now, darling. Love is not emotional starvation. It doesn't leave you empty while you pour out every last drop of yourself. What I once called love was often just my fear of being alone. Wearing a smile and pretending to be okay with crumbs when I deserved a feast. If someone can walk away from you, let them go. I don't care how many years you've invested or how many dreams you built in your mind. You cannot build a life on a foundation that someone else refuses to hold steady. Love, real love, holds firm. It shows up, it speaks truth, it makes room for your voice. It's not perfect, no, but it's honest. It's safe. You should never have to trade your peace just to keep someone beside you. There's a lie the world tells women, that time is running out. That if you don't accept what you're given now, you may never get anything better. So, we settle. We settle for men who won't call, who won't commit, who wound us with silence or sarcasm, and then expect us to call it normal. But love is not meant to feel like walking on eggshells. If you find yourself wondering every day whether you're enough, if you have to explain your tears, if your dreams are always pushed aside, that's not love. That's emotional poverty. Now, I know you're afraid. You don't want to start over. You don't want to be alone. But listen closely. Being alone is not the worst thing that can happen to a woman. The loneliest I've ever been wasn't when I was by myself. It was lying next to someone who made me feel invisible. When you truly know your worth, you stop auditioning for people who were never qualified to sit at your table. And when you grasp how deeply you are loved by the one who made you, not for how you look, or what you do, but simply because you exist, you begin to walk differently. You begin to speak differently. You start to love yourself, not with arrogance, but with sacred reverence. So I say this to you, with all the love in my heart. Building on the truth we just explored, it's time to stop begging for the love that should be given freely. Stop chasing after people who fail to see your light, the radiant, beautiful light only you can shine. Real love, the kind you deserve, will never ask you to lose yourself just to hold on to it. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. What you need to do is protect it fiercely. Love should be your sanctuary, a place of peace and acceptance, not a battlefield where you fight for scraps of affection. Wait patiently for the kind of love that looks you in the eyes and says, I see you, every part of you, and I choose you, just as you are. Until that love arrives, choose yourself. And don't mistake this for selfishness, that's holy. Let me say something many women don't hear enough. You are already enough. Not when you lose the weight, or when he finally calls you back, not when your children behave perfectly, or when your life looks flawless on Instagram. Right now, just as you are enough. The world has a cruel way of teaching women that their value is negotiable, that it fluctuates with age, attention, or approval from others. But I'm here to tell you that's a lie. You were not created to be ranked, rated, or diminished. Your worth was stitched into your very being from the moment you were born. No mirror can define it. No man can give it to you. No heartbreak can take it away. But here's the hard truth. even though your worth is unchangeable. You have to know it. You must live like you truly believe it. Because if you don't, the world will step in and sell you cheap. It will tell you to hustle for love, to compete for affection, to stay silent so you don't get left behind. It teaches us to smile through exhaustion, to pretend we're okay when we're not, and to believe that suffering in silence is noble. I spent far too many years believing that if I just tried harder, I'd finally be seen. I told myself that if I loved him enough, if I stayed patient just one more time, if I forgave one more time, maybe he'd finally notice the quiet ways I held everything together. But love that must be earned like that, that's not love. That's emotional debt, and you will never find peace paying off a debt that was never yours to begin with. Listen closely. Love that requires you to lose yourself is not love. It might be need, fear, or habit, but it is not love. Real love doesn't leave you guessing. It doesn't silence your soul. It doesn't ask you to carry every burden while pretending to be unbroken. When someone truly sees your worth, you will never have to beg for the basics. You won't have to explain why you hurt. You won't have to chase a text or twist your values just to be tolerated. For those of you thinking, but what if I end up alone? I want to share a truth I learned the hard way. Being alone is far less lonely than being with someone who makes you feel invisible. I've sat across a dinner table from a man who looked right through me, as if I weren't even there. I've lain beside someone at night who didn't know how to hold me in the daylight. That kind of loneliness eats away at your soul. But when you truly know who you are, when you finally believe your worth was sealed long before anyone tried to question it, you stop chasing love that hurts. You stop bending yourself until you break. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. And most importantly, you stop begging. Because real love, true love, doesn't have to be earned. It arrives steady and sure. It meets you where you are and says, you don't have to perform. I'm here because I want to be. Picking up from where we left off. Remember this. Love that truly matters does not make you smaller, it makes you stronger. So hold out for that kind of love. Walk confidently in your worth, not in the shadow of your wounds. And never, ever let anyone make you feel that love is something you have to qualify for. You already qualify. You were created for it. Forgiveness, my dear, is one of the hardest lessons I've learned, and also one of the most freeing. For years, I believed that forgiving someone meant agreeing they were right or pretending their hurtful actions didn't wound me. But forgiveness is neither agreement nor forgetfulness. It's release. You forgive not because the other person deserves peace, but because you do. Bitterness doesn't protect you, it poisons you. I carried anger deep in my chest for years, mistaking it for strength, but all it did was harden me, tighten my smile, weigh down my shoulders, and silence my spirit. I've seen what unforgiveness does to women. It sits in their bones like grief that never ends. And you know what? It always starts small. A little hurt left unspoken. A betrayal swept under the rug. And then it grows, until you can't laugh the way you used to. Until you see the world only through the lens of who hurt you. But I've also witnessed the moment a woman truly lets go. It doesn't always happen in a dramatic explosion. Sometimes it happens quietly, in the stillness of a morning when she decides, this no longer owns me. And just like that, she begins to breathe again. Not shallow breaths, not pretending, but deep, healing breaths. And while we're learning to let go, let's also release the world's harsh lies about beauty. You don't owe this world eternal youth. You don't have to chase every trend just to be seen. Beauty isn't found in the lines on your face or the color of your lips. True beauty is found in your presence. It's how you show up when someone is hurting. It's the way you carry truth without shouting. The world may shout, but real beauty whispers. It slips quietly into a room and changes the air. I've seen beauty in wrinkled hands that still know how to hold. In tired eyes that light up when speaking of grandchildren. In women who have walked through hell and still know how to sing a hymn. So if you're chasing some perfect image, hear me now. You will never catch it. And even if you do, it won't last. But if you nurture your soul, feed your kindness, courage, and compassion, that beauty will grow with you. It won't fade, it will deepen. And finally, here's something that might save you years of heartache. Timing matters. God's timing is not ours. It never has been. We pray and expect answers by Friday. We hope for a husband by 30, a baby by 35, peace by retirement. But life doesn't follow our calendars. I cried over unanswered prayers at 40 that only made sense at 60. Sometimes, the delay is protection. Sometimes, the no is saving you from what you thought you wanted. Waiting is hard. It feels like silence. It feels like being forgotten. But let me assure you, you are not forgotten. Not once. Not for a moment. If the door didn't open, maybe it wasn't your door. If the person left, maybe they were never meant to stay. What's meant for you isn't in a hurry, but it's also never confused. It will come. You just have to trust. And in the meantime, keep walking, keep growing, keep forgiving, keep becoming the kind of woman ready to receive when it finally arrives, because it will. I want to speak to the part of you that's tired. Not just physically tired, but tired of proving, performing, pleasing. Because somewhere along the way, many of us were taught our worth must be earned. That we must look a certain way, act a certain way, be agreeable, be quiet, be everything to everyone just to be seen. But after 72 years of walking through valleys and standing on mountaintops, here's what I've learned. Your worth is not up for debate. It doesn't increase with compliments. And it doesn't vanish when someone walks away. You were worthy the moment you took your first breath, and nothing can change that. But when you don't know your worth, you'll spend your life begging for love, chasing people who were never meant to stay, staying in places that starve your soul, thinking crumbs are better than nothing, giving more than you have, calling it loyalty when really it's just fear. Fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear that you'll never be chosen. But listen, my dear daughter, real love doesn't need to be chased. Building on the truth we've uncovered, let me remind you, real love doesn't play games or keep score. It doesn't twist your words or ask you to silence your voice. True love sees you fully, honors you deeply, and stays steadfast through every storm. That kind of love doesn't require convincing or bargaining. It arrives in peace and stands firmly beside you when life gets rough. For too long, I believed that love meant sacrifice, giving second, third, even fourth chances. I let my heart bleed out, while others walked away unscathed. And when the pain settled in, I clung to it, thinking that if I couldn't fix the hurt, at least I could remember it well enough never to be wounded again. But bitterness is a slow, creeping poison. It doesn't stay locked in the past, it invades the present. It makes you suspicious of kindness and hesitant to embrace joy. And forgiveness? I used to think it was weakness. But I learned it's the strongest thing I've ever done. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting, it's about freeing yourself. It's choosing peace over pride. And sometimes, it's not even about the person who hurt you, it's about you finally putting down that heavy weight so you can move forward with both hands open. In the midst of heartbreak and healing, I discovered something beautiful. Beauty isn't what the world tells us it is. It's not skin deep or something bottled and sold. True beauty is found in the way a woman survives without becoming hard. It's in how she speaks truth with love. It's how she shows up when no one's watching. It's the strength to carry pain without letting it define her. Beauty is quiet. It doesn't scream for attention. It whispers resilience. And as we grow older, we realize beauty isn't about youth, it's about presence. It's about being rooted. It's about having eyes that have cried but still shine with hope. So hear me clearly. You don't need to earn love. You don't need to stay broken. You don't need to shrink yourself just to be seen. You are already enough. And when you start truly believing that, you stop settling. You begin to forgive. You start seeing your reflection not through a lens of lack, but through the eyes of a woman who knows she was made with purpose. That's when healing begins. That's when real beauty shows up. And that's when you finally begin to live. There comes a time in every woman's life when she stops asking for permission to be whole. When she realizes that her worth was never something to prove, it was always there, waiting to be remembered. I've seen too many women spend their best years chasing approval, trying to be chosen, trying to fit someone else's idea of enough. But here's what I wish I had known sooner. Your worth is not a bargaining chip. You don't have to shrink to fit inside someone else's broken picture. You were created with intention. And the moment you stop treating yourself like a project to be fixed and start treating yourself like a masterpiece, everything changes. Because when you forget your worth, You begin begging for love. You mistake crumbs for commitment. You wait for a love that can't meet you where you are, hoping it will somehow catch up. But love that leaves you anxious, confused, or exhausted, that's not love. It's survival. And you were not born to survive relationships. You were born to thrive in love that honors you. I learned that the hard way. Picking up from where we left off, I want to share something deeply personal. I stayed too long in places where I wasn't truly seen. I spoke too softly when I should have walked away, believing that love meant sacrificing my voice just to keep the peace. But here's the truth: real love doesn't want your silence. Real love wants you whole, fully present, fully yourself. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is stop chasing after love that dims your light and start walking confidently in the truth of who you really are. A big part of that journey is forgiveness. I know, that word feels heavy, maybe even impossible. But forgiveness isn't about pretending the hurt never happened. It's about choosing to say, I refuse to carry this pain any longer. I've seen women grow bitter instead of better, not because they were weak, but because they thought holding on to the pain was strength. Let me tell you this: letting go takes far more courage and power than holding on ever could. Forgiveness isn't the same as trust, and it doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes, it simply means you're done allowing the past to steal your peace today. It's you breaking free from the chains someone else wrapped around your heart. And when you do that, when you finally let go, you breathe differently. You love differently. You begin to truly live again. Through that process, you start to see beauty in a new light, not the beauty the world tries to sell you, which fades with time. True beauty is the light that shines in your eyes after tears have been shed. It's the laugh lines etched from joy you fought hard to find. It's the softness in your voice when you speak gently to someone who's hurting. Beauty whispers. It doesn't scream for attention. It just shows up quietly and changes the room. The most beautiful women I know aren't those who turned heads, they're the ones who turned hearts. They walked through fire and came out softer, not harder. And that softness? That's real strength. But none of this happens on our timeline. We pray and we plan. And when things don't unfold as we pictured, it feels like failure. But here's what I've learned: God's timing is never rushed. And it's never wrong. What didn't happen by 30 may be preparing you for something far richer by 60. That closed door you wept over? It may have saved your life. Delay is not denial. Sometimes, the waiting room is where the deepest growth happens. I've witnessed blessings arrive wrapped in silence, disguised as loss. And years later, I found myself saying, thank you for the very things I once begged to be taken away. So walk boldly in your worth. Wait in faith. Love without begging. Forgive without fear. Trust that even in the quiet, unseen places, you are being led exactly where you need to be. There's something I want you to hear, something I pray sinks deep into your bones. You are not here to be approved. You are here to be at peace. For too many years, I confused the two. I thought if people liked me, I'd finally feel settled. If I looked the part, stayed small, smiled when I wanted to cry, maybe then I'd be worthy of rest. But peace doesn't come from applause. Peace comes from alignment, when your heart, your values, and your God are walking in the same direction. The first thing I had to learn was that my worth wasn't for sale. Not for love, not for opportunity, not even for family. Too many women get talked out of their own value, and often they don't even realize it's happening. It starts quietly. A small comment here, a disappointment there. Before long, you're standing in front of the mirror trying to measure up to something you were never meant to chase. But hear me clearly. Your worth isn't measured by compliments or confirmation. It was written into you by the hands of God Himself. You are not a mistake. Continuing from the truths we've uncovered, let me remind you, you don't have to earn love by changing into someone you're not. You are already enough, exactly as you are. And when you fully grasp that, your spirit stops begging, stops pleading for approval. That leads us to the second truth. Love should never have to be begged for. If someone truly loves you, you won't feel uncertain or unsafe. You'll feel secure, cherished, and free. I've been in rooms where I was barely tolerated, and I called it commitment. I stayed too long with people who preferred my silence to my soul. But real love? It doesn't ask you to make yourself smaller just to fit in. It won't leave you begging for presents, for attention, or for basic decency. If it does, that's not love, that's control. You don't have to keep knocking on a door that only opens when it's convenient for others. Love that's meant for you will meet you exactly where you are. It will walk beside you with joy, not judgment. Still, even when you finally choose yourself and walk away, the wounds don't simply vanish overnight. That's where forgiveness comes in, not for their sake, but for yours. Forgiveness is not weakness. It's not permission for hurt to continue. It's you setting down the heavy burden and saying, I'm done carrying what broke me. I had to forgive people who never apologized. I had to forgive myself for what I allowed, while I was still learning. And in that release, I found space to breathe again. With time, I also discovered that beauty isn't what the world tells us. It's not about youth, trends, or perfection. True beauty is about presence. It's the softness that comes from surviving hard things and still choosing to love. It's a light that doesn't scream for attention, it simply radiates. The most beautiful women I've ever known weren't those with the clearest skin or the fanciest lives. They were the ones who walked into a room and made others feel safe, seen, and whole. All of this, knowing yourself, loving deeply, forgiving freely, unfolds in God's perfect timing. Not on your schedule, not when you wish. I've cried over things that didn't come when I wanted, only to thank God later that they hadn't. What feels like delay may actually be divine protection. What seems like rejection might be redirection. God's timing never fails, even when it breaks your heart first. In the end, what truly matters isn't whether people applaud your arrival or finally say you were right. What matters most is peace. That deep, holy quiet inside that whispers, you are exactly where you belong. Choose that peace.